welcome to Dollars and Cents. I'm Heather Sullivan. Thanks so much for joining us. We have a great show for you from Fox reporters across the country, all working to help you save money and make some really smart financial moves. Up first, have you ever lied to your boo about spending or credit card debt? It happens more than you think, especially among young adults. How to talk about it with your mate. Should you pay off a loan early? And which one? Your car, student loans, credit cards? The pros and cons of paying off debt ahead of schedule. Gen Z and millennials are doing a lot of doom spending. What is it? And how to avoid the doomies. And millions of dollars go unclaimed every year from class action lawsuits with companies that you do business with. How to claim what you're owed safely. Okay, so have you ever lied to your partner about spending money? A Bankrate survey found 42% of couples have kept financial secrets from their boo, and that number has been growing, especially among Gen Z and millennial couples.
She's a runner, she's a track star.
Viral videos on social media. People hiding purchases from their partners.
I understood the assignment.
And it's like you're hiding all the Amazon boxes because you don't want your significant other to see how much you spent on Amazon.
A new Bankrate survey found 42% of couples say they've kept a financial secret from their partner.
Secret spending is the most common. We're also talking about things like secret debt, secret bank accounts, secret credit cards.
And it's getting worse, particularly among younger adults, Gen Z and millennials.
Maybe you find out when you're applying for a mortgage or you're applying for a car loan.
One solution?
I also really like that yours, mine, and ours approach, because the biggest reason people tell us they keep financial secrets is they want more privacy and independence within the relationship.
Some couples may even need some counseling. Experts suggest writing a joint financial statement of income and expenses and agree to a plan to pay off debt.
You either have to make more money, and we fortunately live in this new gig economy where about everybody has the ability to side hustle. But then the second thing you can do is you can cut expenses.
Set long-term goals for saving and paying off debt and rewards for reaching milestones along the way.
And then celebrate those victories, because that's the part I think we get so busy in life, you don't want to lose focus on the relationship that made it all possible. And especially around Valentine's Day, that's important.
Yes, it is. So here are some tips from the experts. Make a joint financial statement of your income, expenses, savings, and debt. Set goals for saving or paying off debt, either through the avalanche or snowball methods. Cut expenses or consider a side hustle. And set up rewards for reaching milestones like a special date or a trip together. You'll find links to help couples with money management on Sullivan's Smart Sense on Fox26Houston.com. And if you are still on the hunt for flowers for Valentine's or any other occasion, flower experts are sharing their tips on which buds to buy to stem the cost. Fox's Don Hasbrook has the Money Saver Report.
Business is booming ahead of the Day of Love, but florists know consumers are concerned about price.
Prices seem to be pretty stable. We dealt with a lot of the inflation over the last couple years, but that seems to have leveled off pretty well. So we're trying to hold prices as best we can.
A recent survey by Consumers Checkbook shows the price for a dozen long-stem roses can run anywhere from $15 up to $90. So you might be wondering what buds to buy that will still show some love and won't wear out your wallet.
The red roses is really the single item that drives a lot of the cost of a lot of the arrangements.
Sheffield says you can save a few bucks by using a different color rose instead.
It's about 30 or 40% less than if you do a straight all red dozen roses.
If that doesn't work for you.
Tulips are really good right now. Springtime is when tulips are in season, so we have a great supply of those right now. And that's something a little bit different from the traditional roses. And if you're not tied to red roses, that really helps us, give us some more options. And we have lots of other flowers that we could include there.
After tulips, Sheffield says the next best bet for your budget is sending a mixed arrangement. But what about these guys?
Carnations are really love or hate. A lot of people think they're like old-fashioned, cheap flower. But there are new varieties out too that are more interesting.
Another way to save a few bucks when buying Valentine's Day flowers is picking them up at the supermarket. Consumers Checkbook says that's key to cutting the cost.
They usually offer flowers for about 40 to 60% less than what independent flower shops sell them for.
Brasler adds there are trade-offs if you go that route.
You're likely to get better buds by going to an independent florist. They have higher buying standards. They're not buying truckload after truckload of flowers.
If you are sending flowers to someone out of state, Brasler has this advice when shopping online.
Know in advance that a lot of the pictures that are shown online are exaggerations of what you're going to get.
That's why he says it's better to work with either a local floral shop in your city or one in the area where you're sending your flowers.
There are a lot of companies these days advertising on the internet that make it seem like they are a local florist shop, and they're not. They're these middlemen who just take in orders and then try to find a florist in that area to fulfill them. And oftentimes what happens is they're delayed.
You know, and to add about carnations, they last 3 weeks when most flowers only last 2 weeks. So I think they've gotten a bad rap. Well, while we're on the topic of relationships, if you've thought about moving in together, saving money could be one of the benefits. Realtor.com reports couples who cohabitate save between $900 to $1,600 a month, and that's per person. And that can help couples save up for the future. And take a look at this. An analysis found young adults between 18 and 34 went to bed on average at 10:06 p.m. last month. And it looks like they understand the link between sleep and health more than previous generations. And they are finding that it's helping them to save money, too. No more midnight hangouts or bar hopping for these young adults. In fact, several of those surveyed said they got out for drinks at around 5 or 6. And in response, more bars are offering matinee dance parties or early evening happy hours. And Gen Z says it is helping them to save money, get more sleep, and feel better. And here's one more thing that might help you save a few bucks. The federal government is cracking down on overdraft fees. Americans paid banks more than $2 billion of these fees just in the last year. So would you believe that's a 25% decrease from 2022? But it's still enormous, right? So now some banks are finding ways to help customers avoid the penalties. The charge is usually $35 per overdraft. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau wants to change the fee to just $3 per transaction. Well, you might be getting a tax refund soon, or maybe you just happen to have some cash saved up, and maybe you've been thinking about paying off a loan early. But is it always a good idea? Fox's Dana Fowle joins us with the pros and cons to consider.
You know, juggling debt, necessary debt, well, it's not fun, and I think we can all agree on that. But we have mortgages, we have car loans, and a lot of people are still paying off those school loans. And sometimes we come into a little bit of extra cash and think about knocking those bills out in one big fell swoop, right? In reality, a car loan is the shorter financial obligation and maybe the easiest to pay off. The mortgage, that's a tougher one. But again, if you had the money to do it, the pros and cons for all would be about the same. These are the pros. If we pay off a loan early, this will free up some cash. This will take debt off our credit cards. Even if you pay some down, it can shorten the life of the loan long term, and then you pay less interest on that loan. And now you can spend that money elsewhere, like a new roof, maybe more savings. Cons. While paying off the loan does free up cash, putting that large chunk of cash that you had there at the ready down could take away from your spending power. It just depends on your circumstance. If you're at the end of the loan, most of the loan's interest is paid off, so that extra cash may be better put to use in an emergency fund or making money for you elsewhere. A student loan early payoff may mean that you're missing out on some loan forgiveness options. We know these pop up from time to time, and some tax benefits. Okay, if you're like me and you have not been lucky and you have not won the lottery, but you do want to whittle down some of that debt, there are tried and true ways to actually do that. You can make bi-weekly payments every 2 weeks rather than one monthly payment. By year's end, you are making one extra payment, 13 rather than 12. Then round up each of those payments to the nearest $100, shaving off a little bit more. Also, that 100, make sure you send it separately and say this is to be applied to the principal only and not the interest rather. but you must make sure your loan provider allows this option. Not all do. Also, sometimes you'll hear from third-party folks who say, hey, let us do this for you. You don't need to do that. That just costs you extra money. You can do it yourself. You just call your lender.
Great information. Okay, Verizon, Google, Fortnite, those are just a few of the companies that are settling class action lawsuits for alleged wrongdoing against their customers. But when you get notices to claim a settlement check or even join a lawsuit, do you respond? Millions of dollars get left on the table every year. So here are steps to determine whether you should join and how to do it safely.
Maybe you received an email about claiming part of Verizon's $100 million settlement over allegedly undisclosed fees, or a notice that Apple may owe you up to $30 from a settlement over its family sharing feature. When companies are sued for things like data breaches, overcharging, or product defects, class action lawsuits and settlement notices are sent to customers. But many customers don't respond, wondering, is it real or is it a scam? So check it out first. Look up the company name and the words lawsuit or settlement.
Look up the law firm, make sure it's legitimate, call them. So don't just rely on, a postcard that you get in the mail.
You can also look up class action lawsuits and settlements on the sites classaction.org or consumeraction.org. And once you know that it's legit, the next question, is it worth your time?
There's really no downside to joining. You have to enter your information, usually share some personal information and details about yourself, and you want to set your expectations. In general, the payouts here are pretty small amounts, and it can take years to get that money.
Often payouts are just a few dollars, but sometimes they're more. Apple just sent plaintiffs $92 to settle allegations of slowing down iPhones. But even if a payout is small, consumer advocates say joining can help other consumers get justice and deter businesses from harmful consumer practices.
As a consumer, it's always a good idea to make your voice heard.
And you can also opt not to join a class action and file your own suit, which is usually done in small claims court. Now, you don't have to hire an attorney to be in small claims court, though it's a good idea to consult one first. But consumers who sued Equifax individually over the 2017 data breach received larger verdicts than those in the class action. So I put some links to those class action websites. You can look some up on Sullivan Smart Sense on fox26houston.com. And there's a new financial trend. It's called doom spending. Big purchase goals like buying a house feel impossible to a lot of young adults right now. So to make themselves feel better, they're spending on smaller items that they don't necessarily need. And according to Fox Business, 43% of millennials and 35% of Gen Z say they are guilty of doom spending. Madison Alworth takes a look.
There's a new financial trend. It's called doom spending. Big purchase goals like buying a house feel impossible. So to make themselves feel better about their financial situation, people spend on items now. And they're buying things they don't necessarily need. 27% of people say they're guilty of this. And it's even worse for millennials and Gen Z. 43% of millennials and 35% of Gen Z say they're guilty of doom spending. So we took to the street to see what shoppers had to say, and we found that people are happy to spend now and worry about the future later.
I've definitely bought things I didn't need yet.
Oh, I think just scrolling through Instagram, they target you really well. And yeah, I'm always, they know the exact person they're looking for. When they see me, and I'll just go and buy it.
It's something to look forward to when it comes in the mail. It's just like a little surprise when it comes in because, of course, by the time it does, I forgot that I even made my purchase in the first place.
Homeownership has become so elusive that we're now at a decades-high rate of young people living at home. About 23 million Americans between the ages of 18 to 29 are living with family. That's around the same levels that we saw in the 1940s. Another thing I heard from people is that thanks to the cell phone, there are no restrictions around shopping. You can shop from anywhere at any time, making the doom spending trend even more popular. In New York, I'm Madison Alworth, Fox Business.
Just something to think about. Now, Health and Human Services reports the victims of medical record breaches hit an all-time high last year, 116 million patients nationwide. When we think of identity theft, we often think about stolen credit card information. But medical record theft is rising because your medical records are actually worth 10 times as much as your stolen credit card on the black market.
Imagine having your private medical records exposed.
The whole thing has been very overwhelming, and it's become, it's very anxiety producing. It's very stressful.
Elena Shaffey says she's one of 70 patients whose sensitive medical records and pictures from the Beverly Hills Plastic Surgery Office of Dr. Gary Modicki were posted on a public website in 2023. Dr. Modicki filed a report with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office that he received a demand for a $2.5 million ransom for the records.
It was very disturbing, firstly, to see the content of this website. And then in addition to that, seeing everyone else's information, everyone else's financial, their entire medical history.
The Department of Health and Human Services says 540 healthcare organizations were breached nationwide last year.
They're not getting more frequent, but the number of records they're affecting are getting larger. So one breach may affect more records or may affect more sensitive records than breaches in the past.
Researcher Paul Bischoff with Comparitech says the most breached facilities are specialist clinics, which are often smaller offices and sometimes have less security, followed by health insurance, hospitals, and networks. While electronic records are most targeted, paper records can also be stolen or disposed of improperly.
Yes, there are surgeons who do protect patient information, but there are so many who don't because, things cost money. Software costs money.
When records are breached, the Identity Theft Resource Center says not only can thieves use your financial information to run up credit card and loan debt, they can use your health insurance for medical procedures, causing debts and inaccuracies on your records that can prevent you from getting care. And they can use your images and diagnosis to extort money.
That being leveraged more in sort of a ransom type of situation, extortion, where the patients are being contacted or the entity is being told, the breached entity is being told, we will expose this information.
Patient advocates recommend taking steps to protect your records.
You need to get copies of your medical record and your chart as you go through the progress. Don't wait till you're done.
And avoid giving out unnecessary information at the doctor's office.
They don't all need to have your social security number. They don't all need to have every piece of data about you. So ask questions. Why do you need this?
Health and Human Services plans to propose new cybersecurity requirements and resources for hospitals through Medicare and Medicaid this spring. The American Hospital Association issued a statement that AHA supports voluntary, consensus-based cybersecurity practices and will continue to work collaboratively with HHS and other federal partners to enhance cybersecurity efforts for the entire healthcare field. Some patient advocates say more oversight is needed.
Maybe the Department of Justice or medical boards that actually go in and enforce these HIPAA compliant regulations that exist.
Shaffey is now suing over the breach.
Very expensive financially. It's very expensive emotionally, spiritually. And you're supposed to go to a doctor for them to help you heal you.
The LA Sheriff's Office says they're still investigating the Modicki case. We reached out to Dr. Modicki. We have not heard back. His attorney said in a letter to the DOJ that they have secured credit monitoring services for the potentially impacted individuals. Now, here's some more steps you can take to protect yourself. Keep your credit frozen at all 3 credit bureaus until you need it. Use different passwords and multi-factor identification on all of your digital accounts, including patient portals. Read those EOBs, your explanation of benefits for any medical care that you didn't receive. Dispute errors on your medical records in writing by certified mail, and keep your prescriptions and medical papers in a safe place and shred them before you toss them. Well, more drivers are taking advantage of tax incentives and going green with electric vehicles, but EVs are still not without their challenges, like finding places to charge up. So Fox's Scott Schneider takes us inside a government lab in Chicago, where they're researching the future of personal transportation that could impact all of us.
For the first time in its history, the Chicago Auto Show has created an indoor track dedicated solely to electric vehicles, as automakers attempt to lure would-be car and truck buyers into the world of plug-in driving. At Argonne National Labs in Lamont, the Transportation Power Systems Division has converted an analog gas station into an all-electric fast-charging superstation. Manager Dan Dobrzinski is tasked with studying the current trends of EV owners and those considering buying an electric or hybrid vehicle.
The refueling of a vehicle is, it's a ubiquitous process right now where you go to the gas station, you fill up, but we envision a future where there may be refueling stations, but the places that you normally go, like the workplace or the home, there's already electricity there.
Whether you are charging from home, the office, or anywhere else, owning an EV can be challenging. Remember in January when some Tesla owners lost power in sub-zero temperatures and found charging stations not functioning in the extreme cold.
There are challenges that have to do with temperatures. We do study vehicle and their performance, their charging performance at low temperatures as well as higher temperatures. The summer months in Chicago can be pretty hot too and pretty humid.
After record sales in early 2023, many consumers opted for gas-powered or hybrid vehicles late in the year, citing the dreaded range anxiety, the fear that no matter where their travels might take them, there might not be a charging station around when the juice runs out.
The real challenge is that the vehicles are coming, the charging stations are coming, but the grid has to prepare for that as well. And a lot of times, understanding where to upgrade the grid, what permitting is needed, where the funding source is coming from, that takes maybe decades in some cases.
We run this through these large simulation models, and again, when you see it pull out, you'll see the scope. We're going all the way up to Kenosha.
But at Argonne, the future is decarbonization, and Joshua Auld's mobility division studies what is affectionately known as what-if analysis, envisioning a Chicagoland where gas-powered vehicles are mostly museum pieces.
The advantage we have with electrification is a lot of it can be done at fixed points with existing architecture, and we need to infill that. So the hope is for massive expansion of EVs where it's needed.
That's right. While more charging stations are coming to Chicago, the real growth in EV sales is likely to come with the expansion of home and office hookups. Scott Schneider, Fox 32, Chicago.
Pretty true of everywhere, including here in Houston. Okay, I love cats, so I had to share this next story with you. Take a look at this.
Show them who's the cutest cat.
Cat Lady Couture is not old lady with a robe and slippers anymore. New York fashion influencer Milan Wheaton says she takes inspiration from her cat Coco. She says Coco is naturally chic and moves with a cool confidence that demands respect. She says that she channels that energy into her designs to embody her cat's elegance. She also wears fake fur and colors that mimic her cat's coat. Too cute. Well, fans of Stranger Things can actually invest in the buyer's home. Yeah. A minimum investment of just $100 gets you a share in what is now a vacation property. Shares will be available to anyone while supplies last, and share owners will earn rental income generated by the property on a quarterly basis. The vacation rental will be decorated using funds from the shares. And, I like to leave you with something funny. So if you have kids, you've probably been to some school recitals where the kids stand on the stage and sing songs. Well, at one recital last week, the attention wasn't on the kids, but rather on a decoration. A woman taking the video noticed that one boy had built up some static electricity just enough that the balloon would not leave him alone. Other kids were noticing what was going on. Some had confused looks on their faces. The boy even started fighting the balloon, but eventually he just gave in to its power. All right, that's our show. Thanks so much for joining us. Hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. It's all Heather Sullivan, Fox 26. I love getting your notes, and you'll find more ways to save on Sullivan Smart Cents, fox26houston.com. We'll see you next time on Dollars and Cents.